I never thought the moment that broke me would look so ordinary. No dramatic reveal, no screaming argument in the rain, no movie-style breakdown. Just me, standing in the parking lot behind Miller's Market, staring at my girlfriend Maya, sitting in the passenger seat of Connor's truck, laughing at something he said while touching his arm the way she used to touch mine. My stomach dropped so fast I actually leaned on a shopping cart to stay upright. I don't even know how long I stood there. Long enough to realize the way she looked at him wasn't new. Long enough to feel something cold and heavy settle in my chest. Long enough to finally understand why she'd been too tired to see me or busy with work, even on weekends. I didn't confront them. I didn't yell. I just turned around, walked home, and let the reality hit me in waves until I couldn't breathe. I'm 24. I thought I had a decent handle on life. A steady job at the hardware store. A small apartment above the laundromat. A girlfriend I thought was my future. But small towns have a way of turning your personal disasters into public entertainment. By the next morning, half the people in Cedar Falls probably already knew. But none of that compared to the worst part. Realizing I had spent the last year loving someone who had checked out long before I noticed. I didn't have many close friends here, so I spent a lot of evenings walking around town just to clear my head. That's how I ended up outside the old bookshop near the river. The one that closes by 8 but somehow always has a light on after. That's when I first saw her. Rachel. She sat behind the counter with her hair tied loosely, reading under a warm lamp. She looked older than me, not by a lot, but enough that you could see life experience in the way she held herself. Confident. Composed. Someone who knew who she was and didn't apologize for it. I must have looked pathetic because she glanced up, studied me for half a second, and said, "Rough night." Her voice was calm, not pitying. More like she'd seen enough people walk in looking like I did. I ended up buying a book I didn't need just to have something to do with my hands. She bagged it and said, "Whatever you're going through, you'll survive it. People have survived worse." I don't know why those words hit me so hard. Maybe because she said it like a fact, not comfort. That night, I went to bed thinking about two people, the one who broke me, and the one who, somehow, steadied me with a single sentence. I didn't plan to see Rachel again. I definitely didn't plan to walk into her shop the next day like some lost puppy, still looking for scraps of comfort. But that's exactly what I did. She was rearranging a stack of new arrivals when I pushed the door open, the bell giving me away. She glanced over her shoulder, gave a small half-smile, and said, "You look slightly less destroyed today. Progress." I felt embarrassed, but also weirdly safe. We talked a little. Nothing deep at first. Books, the weather, the fact that Cedar Falls was stuck in eternal tourist off-season. I learned she was 34, had moved here a few years earlier after leaving a long, complicated relationship in Portland, and bought the shop because she wanted something quiet, peaceful, and hers. I envied how self-assured she seemed. A few days later, Maya finally texted me. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't an explanation. It was, "Can we talk? I think we both made mistakes." Both. The level of delusion honestly impressed me. I ignored it, but the town didn't. Everywhere I went, work, the diner, the gas station, I heard whispers. Nothing travels faster in a small town than someone else's heartbreak. Rachel noticed the stress the moment I stepped into her shop again. She asked, "Is it about the girl?" I nodded. She didn't push. Instead, she brewed tea in the small back room and handed me a cup like it was perfectly normal for a 34-year-old woman to be counseling a younger guy she barely knew. "People are predictable," she said. "They break things. They lie. They blame you for their choices. But once you see through them, you can't unsee it." "Yeah," I said quietly. "I guess I'm still learning that." We talked for almost an hour. It was the most ease I had felt since the breakup. With Rachel, there was no pressure to pretend I wasn't hurting. When I left, she said, "Come back anytime, Ethan. I don't mind the company." And that was the moment something shifted. Not romantic. Not yet. But there was a spark, small, cautious, undeniable. Meanwhile, Maya kept trying to talk to me. Connor, too. He even came into the hardware store once, acting like nothing happened. That night, I wrote a long Reddit-style rant in my notes app about betrayal, humiliation, and how small towns magnify every wound. I never posted it, but writing it made me realize something. Maya hadn't just cheated. She had treated me like I was replaceable. But sitting in Rachel's shop made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't. And that was the first time I felt a hint of anger instead of heartbreak. A necessary shift. Something that would later become the foundation for revenge I didn't know I had in me. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay on my back staring at the ceiling, replaying everything Maya said. Her voice kept echoing in my head. Ethan, I didn't mean for it to happen. It was almost funny. People always say that when they meant for it to happen every step of the way. By morning I felt hollow. Not angry. Not sad. Just emptied out. Like someone turned off the main breaker inside me. I got up, took a shower, and stared at my reflection. My eyes looked swollen, my jaw clenched. I kept thinking, so this is what betrayal looks like. I decided not to tell anyone. Small towns are hungry for drama, and I didn't want to feed the beast. But of course, small towns don't need your permission. By noon, I walked into the local diner to grab coffee, and 3 different people shot me that weird pity glance. The one that says, "We know." That's when I realized Connor had a loud mouth. Or maybe Maya cried to someone who told someone else. Doesn't matter. The damage was done. I didn't go home. Instead, I walked around town just trying to keep my mind from boiling over. Eventually, I ended up at the old community gym. I hadn't been there in years. They renovated part of it recently and turned the upstairs into a yoga and wellness studio. That's where I first saw Rachel. I wasn't supposed to. I didn't plan it. I was just wandering, trying to escape my own head, when the upstairs door opened and she stepped out. She was older than me, maybe early 30s, but she had that presence, calm, confident, like someone who had lived through storms and came out sharper on the other side. Her hair was pulled back, her expression relaxed in a way I envied. She noticed me standing awkwardly near the stairwell. "You okay?" she asked. Her voice was calm, low, but not intrusive. "Yeah, I lied. Just thinking." She gave me a look that said she didn't believe a word. "Thinking usually doesn't look that painful," she said. I almost smiled. Almost. I introduced myself. "Ethan." "Rachel," she replied. We talked for maybe 5 minutes. Small things. Nothing deep. But there was something about her. It felt steady. Grounded. Like standing beside someone who wouldn't fall apart if the world shook. Before leaving, she said something that stuck with me. "Take a deep breath. You look like someone who hasn't had one in a while." That night, Maya texted me. "Ethan, can we talk? Please?" I stared at her message for at least an hour. My hands were shaking, not with sadness, but with this growing burn in my chest I hadn't felt before. A mix of resentment and clarity. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I finally realized something. I didn't need to fix anything for her. The next day, Rachel found me again. And that was the moment everything started to shift, not just for me, but for the revenge that neither of us yet knew we were about to weave together. Rachel found me the next morning outside the gym. I wasn't planning to go in. I was just standing there with a coffee, staring at nothing. She walked up beside me like she already knew I'd be there. "You look a little less haunted today," she said. "Not sure that's true," I answered. She studied my face for a moment. Not in a flirty way. More like she was reading a book, checking which chapter one was stuck in. "Want company?" she asked. I hesitated, then nodded. We walked down the street together, the quiet kind of comfortable. It surprised me how easy she was to talk to compared to people my own age. She didn't rush me or push me to explain anything. She just existed beside me, and somehow that helped. After a few minutes, she said, "I don't need the details, but I know what someone looks like after they've been betrayed." I stopped walking. "Is it that obvious?" "It's obvious when you've gone through it yourself," she said. More than once, actually. She said it casually, but it carried weight. And something clicked in my head. Maybe she understood more about my situation than anyone else possibly could. We ended up sitting on a bench overlooking the river that cuts through town. Finally, I told her what happened. The short version, no dramatics, no excuses for Maya. Rachel listened without interrupting. Not even once. When I finished, she rested her elbows on her knees and said quietly, "She didn't cheat because you were lacking something. People cheat because there's something wrong in them, not in the person they betray." No one had ever put it like that to me. And for a moment, I felt something loosen in my chest. Then my phone buzzed. Maya again. "Please, Ethan. I just want to explain. I miss you." I turned the phone face down. Rachel watched me, raising an eyebrow. "She wants attention," Rachel said. "Not closure, attention." "Yeah," I muttered. "Feels like she's trying to keep me on a leash." "She is. That's what people like that do." The way she said people like that made me ask, "So what did your ex do to you?" She exhaled slowly. "Let's just say he underestimated how much I pay attention. Thought he could juggle two women and both would stay quiet. He was wrong. I ended things politely, but I didn't let him walk away without consequences." I glanced at her. Consequences? A small, knowing smile touched her lips. Nothing illegal, just enlightening. That was the moment a strange spark lit between us. Not romantic, not yet. More like recognition. Like we were two people who had been pushed past a line and were quietly deciding what to do about it. Then Rachel said something that shifted the entire direction of my life. "So what do you want to do? Accept her apology? Ignore her? Or?" She paused, watching me carefully. Make sure she understands exactly what she lost. I didn't answer right away, but inside, something darker and clearer formed. Not anger, purpose. And Rachel saw it before I even said a word. Rachel didn't push me for an answer. She just waited, giving me space to form my own thoughts. That was something Maya never did. With her, every silence had to be filled, every emotion justified, every insecurity soothed. With Rachel, silence felt like room to breathe. We walked back toward town, and for the first time since the breakup, I noticed people staring. Not at me out of pity this time, but at us. A younger guy walking beside a confident, striking older woman. In a small town, that alone is enough to spark whispers. Rachel noticed too. "You okay with this?" she asked. "With what?" "Being seen with someone like me. This place loves to talk." I shrugged. "They already talk about me. Might as well give them better material." That made her laugh. A warm, real laugh that made something tighten in my stomach. I wasn't attracted to her at first, not in a romantic way. But now, for the first time, something flickered. We reached the parking lot behind the gym where her car was. She leaned against the driver's side door, arms crossed. "Ethan," she said, "there are 3 ways people respond to betrayal. They collapse, they run, or they rise. And which one am I?" I asked. "That depends on what you choose next." Her words lingered long after she drove away. That afternoon, Maya called me. I let it ring out. 10 seconds later, a text popped up. "Why are you ignoring me? We need to fix this." Fix. That word irritated me more than the cheating. She treated everything like a broken chair. Something you could glue back together and pretend was good as new. Another text followed. "I made a mistake. We can talk tonight? Please?" Before I could even process it, I heard a voice behind me. "You're doing good," Rachel said. I turned around, startled. "Were you waiting for me?" "No, just passing by and saw your face twist into at least 3 different emotions in 5 seconds." I sighed. "She won't stop. That's because she feels control slipping away," Rachel said. "And people like her only care about control." She motioned toward a small outdoor seating area beside the cafe. "Sit with me. Let's figure out what you actually want." I followed her, and when we sat down, she angled her body toward mine, her posture relaxed, but her eyes sharp. "You don't owe her forgiveness," Rachel said, "but you also don't owe her silence. The question is, what outcome gives you peace?" I stared at the phone still buzzing with Maya's name on the screen. "I want her to understand what she threw away," I finally said. "Not by yelling, not by fighting. I just want her to feel it." Rachel nodded slowly. "Then, that's something we can work with." "We?" I repeated. She smirked. "I told you. I don't let cheaters walk away without clarity. Think of me as someone who knows how to guide the situation." That spark between us from earlier pulsed stronger now, more defined, more dangerous. "Ethan," she said softly, "if you're ready to move forward, there are ways to do this right." I swallowed. "What do we do first?" Rachel leaned back, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "We start by taking back your narrative. Once she realizes you're not broken by her, the rest will unfold naturally." And just like that, the revenge, subtle, strategic, and slow burning, quietly began. The first step, according to Rachel, wasn't about Maya at all. It was about me. "You need to stop looking like someone who was thrown out of his own life," she said. "If she sees you rising without her, she'll feel it far more deeply than if you confront her." So Rachel convinced me to meet her at the gym later that afternoon. Not to work out, but to talk strategy somewhere private. When I arrived, she was already there, stretching in the empty studio. The sunlight from the high windows made her look almost unreal. Focused, composed, totally in control. I realized then just how different she was from anyone I'd ever known. "Come in," she said. "Close the door." I did, and she sat on the floor, motioning for me to sit across from her. "First question," she said. "Do you want her back?" It hit harder than I expected. "No," I said quickly. "Not after what she did." Rachel watched me closely. "Good. Because revenge doesn't work if part of you still wants her approval." I nodded, feeling something settle inside me. "Then here's our next step," she continued. "You're going to rebuild yourself. Confidence, presence, clarity. Not for her. For you. But yes, she's going to see it." "How?" I asked. Rachel smiled slightly. "Small towns have big windows. Trust me." For the next hour, she talked me through things I'd never even considered. Changing my routines, spending time in places I normally avoided, reconnecting with people who respected me. Nothing manipulative, nothing fake. Just shifts that would make Maya realize she didn't break me. If anything, she pushed me into becoming someone better. Once she sees the changes, Rachel said, she'll panic. And that's when she'll start trying harder. "And then?" I asked. "Then," she said, "you let her chase a version of you she can no longer reach." There was something undeniably alluring in the way she explained things. Calm, precise, almost surgical. She wasn't talking about petty revenge. She was describing emotional truth being returned to its rightful owner. Before I left, Rachel stepped closer, standing directly in front of me. Not touching, but close enough that I felt her presence like heat. "You're stronger than you think, Ethan," she said. "But you need to start acting like it." Her tone wasn't condescending. It was empowering. And the way she looked into my eyes made my pulse pick up just a little. That evening, I did something I hadn't done since before Maya cheated. I went out with a couple of friends. Laughed. Talked. Didn't check my phone once. But when I got home, I saw the message. "Maya again. I saw you today. Why didn't you answer me? We need to talk. Please stop avoiding me." Her shift from demanding to pleading was unmistakable. Exactly what Rachel predicted. I didn't respond. Instead, I texted Rachel. "You were right. She's noticing." Rachel replied almost instantly. "Good. Now the real part begins." And even though I didn't understand what the real part meant yet, I felt something new stirring inside me. Momentum. She texted me early in the morning. "Meet me behind the gym at 5. We're something that fits well. Trust me." I didn't ask questions. At this point, I'd learned that Rachel never said anything without purpose. When I showed up, she was leaning against her car, arms crossed, sunglasses on, looking like she owned the entire block. She gave me a slow nod, as if inspecting me. "Good," she said. "You clean up well." "Thanks. I think." She smirked. "Don't sound so confused. Confidence, remember?" I took a step closer. "So what's the plan today?" Rachel pushed off the car and started walking toward Main Street. "Visibility," she said. "But controlled visibility." We headed into town together. And in a place this small, walking side by side with someone like Rachel was enough to crack open an entire week's worth of gossip. People turned their heads. Conversations paused. Even cars slowed down. Exactly what Rachel wanted. "Small towns don't need facts," she said quietly as we walked. "They just need something interesting. And right now, this," she gestured lightly between us, "is interesting." I felt an unexpected heat creep up my neck. The proximity, the attention, even the way she moved beside me. It all felt like a shift I wasn't prepared for. But the turning point came when we stepped into the local coffee shop. Maya was there. She froze mid-sip when she saw us. Her eyes went wide, then sharp, then confused. She was sitting with her friend Jenna, who immediately began whispering to her like she'd just uncovered a state secret. Rachel noticed, of course. She always noticed. Without hesitation, she placed a hand lightly, not romantically, just confidently, on my forearm. A simple gesture, yet it sent a message strong enough to echo across the entire room. Maya finally stood up and walked toward us. I felt my stomach flip, but before she reached us, Rachel leaned in, close enough that her hair brushed my cheek. "Let me handle this," she whispered. Maya stopped a few steps away. "Ethan, can we talk?" Rachel answered before I could. "He's busy." Maya looked her up and down, stunned. "Excuse me? This is between me and him." Rachel didn't raise her voice. She didn't step forward. She didn't act territorial. She simply said, with calm precision, "If it were truly between you and him, you wouldn't have dragged someone else into your bed." The entire cafe went silent. Maya's face turned red. Anger, embarrassment, maybe both. I made a mistake, she said, her voice shaking. But Ethan, you can't just replace me like this. I felt a strange steadiness rise inside me. I'm not replacing anyone, I said. I'm moving forward. Maya stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Rachel added softly, you should respect that. Maya's lips quivered. I just want a chance to fix things. You had one, I said, and you used it on someone else. She didn't respond. She just turned and walked out, her friend rushing behind her. The moment the door closed, Rachel released a breath and looked at me. That, she said, was necessary. I swallowed hard. You planned the whole thing. Not the cafe part, she corrected. But moments have a way of showing up when you're ready for them. We left together, and for the first time since the breakup, I felt something real, strength, alignment, direction. But what I didn't expect was what Rachel said next. Ethan, we're not done. Not even close. Rachel's words echoed in my head as we walked back through the quiet streets of Cedar Falls. Not done. Not even close. I wasn't sure what she meant, but I trusted her instinct. After all, everything she had guided me through so far had worked perfectly. Maya had panicked, and I'd felt in control for the first time in weeks. When we reached her shop, she motioned for me to sit. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, her gaze sharp but not unkind. The first public step was important. She needed to see you exist without her. But that's just the beginning. Now we move on to perception. Perception? I echoed. Exactly. How she sees you. How everyone sees you. If she thinks you're thriving, better than ever, without her, it cuts deeper than any confrontation could. She'll realize she lost something valuable, and you'll gain something more important, peace. I nodded slowly, trying to absorb every word. So what's next? Rachel smiled faintly. We cultivate moments. Public ones. Moments where she can't ignore you. Small appearances at the right places, doing things she knows she never encouraged or supported. Every cafe visit, every bookstore run, every casual interaction with friends. It all builds a story she can't escape. Over the next few days, Rachel helped me plan. It wasn't complicated, but it required consistency. We started small, seeing each other at the library, the coffee shop, and occasionally downtown. We didn't hold hands or act like a couple, but there was an undeniable closeness. People noticed, friends whispered, neighbors stared, but that wasn't our goal. The goal was subtle. Let Maya feel the shift without confrontation. And she did. I caught glimpses of her watching from across the street. Her posture stiffened when she saw Rachel and me talking, laughing at some private joke. Her phone buzzed constantly, probably texts she didn't dare send. I didn't gloat, didn't engage. I simply existed in a calm, confident state Rachel had taught me to cultivate. One evening, Rachel suggested we do something more direct. Ethan, she said, it's time she hears from you, but not in anger. Calm, controlled, truthful. She needs to see the man she underestimated. I was nervous. My hands felt sweaty, my stomach tight. But the anticipation wasn't fear, it was excitement, a feeling I hadn't known in months. Rachel leaned closer and said, remember, this isn't about humiliation. It's about reality. Your reality. She needs to see it clearly. That night, I ran into Maya at the local convenience store. She froze when she saw me, a look of shock crossing her face. Ethan, she started. Hi, Maya, I said evenly, my voice steady, calm. I didn't hesitate. I just wanted to say that I'm doing well. Really well. Better than I've been in a long time. And I owe a lot of that to realizing I don't need anyone like you in my life. Her mouth opened, then closed. She tried another angle. I made a mistake, Ethan. I didn't mean. You did, I interrupted softly. And that's enough. I've moved forward. That's reality. I hope you find your own way too. She looked like she wanted to argue, but the weight of my calm presence and Rachel's subtle influence on me seemed to stop her. She left without another word. Rachel appeared beside me silently. I turned to her, and she smiled. See? Calm and confident, she whispered. This is the power you hold when you choose yourself over someone who doesn't value you. I realized, as we walked back toward the quiet streets, that something between us had shifted as well. The spark had grown into a warmth I couldn't ignore. But there was no rush. Nothing forced. Just trust, guidance, and an unspoken understanding that together, we were untouchable. And somewhere deep inside, I knew the story of Maya and me wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my life, step by step. The next few days blurred into a rhythm Rachel and I created together. I was no longer the boy wandering aimlessly through town, crushed by betrayal. I was present, deliberate, and aware of the subtle ways people noticed me. Rachel had this uncanny ability to make every action feel meaningful without overdoing it. We would meet at her shop in the mornings, then wander through town, talking about life, books, and the strange patterns people fall into when they think they're in control. She never pressed me into anything I wasn't ready for, but her presence alone gave me a new confidence. Then came the pivotal moment. Rachel suggested a small gathering at her shop, friends and neighbors we knew casually, nothing formal. She framed it as a book discussion, but I knew the real intent: visibility. The night of the gathering, I felt an unfamiliar thrill. Rachel had helped me pick out clothes that fit well, encouraged me to carry myself in a more assured way, and coached me on speaking clearly and listening actively. Every small detail had been calculated to convey strength and composure without arrogance. Guests arrived, chatting and laughing. Rachel introduced me to a few people I hadn't met before, and I realized how effortless it felt to talk without awkwardness. For the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about Maya. Halfway through the evening, I noticed her. Maya. She had clearly come without warning, hoping to see me falter or show some trace of weakness. But when our eyes met, she froze. She wasn't angry, or pleading, or charming. She was stunned. I didn't approach her. I didn't need to. Rachel was beside me, calm and confident, and her mere presence seemed to amplify my own sense of control. I smiled politely at friends, laughed at small jokes, and moved through the room with ease. Every glance Maya cast my way was met with a composed, thriving version of me. By the end of the night, she left quietly, without confrontation. I realized she had understood the message perfectly. I wasn't broken. I wasn't waiting. And I wasn't her anymore. After she left, Rachel and I cleaned up together. I tried to speak, but she stopped me with a hand on my shoulder. "It's not over yet," she said softly. "But it doesn't have to be messy. You've already won the hardest part, your own mind." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction I hadn't expected, not just about Maya, but about myself. Rachel had guided me through anger, humiliation, and betrayal without letting me lose my sense of self. As we locked up the shop, she looked at me with that calm, knowing smile. "You're ready for the next step, Ethan," she said. "And that is?" I asked. "Life," she replied simply. "Living fully, unapologetically, and without looking back. Whatever comes next, you'll handle it. Not because of me, but because you finally see your own strength." And as we walked out into the cool night air together, I realized that what started as a story of betrayal had transformed into something far more profound: growth, self-respect, and a connection with someone who truly understood me. Maya had taught me one thing: betrayal hurts. But Rachel showed me that recovery, strategy, and genuine connection could be even more powerful. I finally understood it wasn't about revenge in the traditional sense. It was about reclaiming my life, and I was never going to let anyone, including Maya, take that away again. Weeks passed, and life with Rachel settled into a rhythm that felt natural yet exhilarating. Our bond had grown beyond mentorship. There was trust, quiet intimacy, and a shared understanding that neither of us needed to force anything. We met often, not out of obligation, but because her presence grounded me in ways I hadn't realized I'd missed. Meanwhile, Maya's attempts to contact me dwindled. Texts went unanswered, calls ignored. She didn't confront me directly anymore, probably because she finally understood that the old Ethan, confused, hurt, and desperate, was gone. She had no power over this version of me. That realization alone was intoxicating. One evening, Rachel suggested we visit a local art gallery opening downtown. It was a small event, nothing spectacular, but it gave me another opportunity to exist publicly as someone unbroken. The gallery was cozy, walls lined with abstract pieces and photographs. Couples, families, and friends milled about, chatting quietly. Rachel guided me through the crowd, introducing me to artists and visitors, subtly highlighting my newfound confidence. I caught Maya's reflection in a window as we walked past. She was standing near the entrance, watching. Her expression flickered from curiosity to frustration. I didn't flinch. I didn't hesitate. I simply walked with purpose beside Rachel, engaged in conversation, and smiled where appropriate. After a while, Maya left, shoulders slumped. I didn't feel satisfaction or schadenfreude, just a calm acknowledgement that the chapter had closed. Rachel noticed, her eyes twinkling with quiet pride. "See? That's power without aggression," she whispered. That night, we sat on a bench near the river, the lights of the town reflecting off the water. Rachel pulled her jacket tighter around her shoulders and looked at me. "You've done more than most people could after a betrayal," she said softly. "And you didn't just survive, you grew." I felt a strange mixture of relief and disbelief. It was true. I had grown. Maya's betrayal had pushed me to a point where I could either collapse or rise. I chose the latter, guided by someone who understood strength, patience, and subtle strategy. There was a pause, comfortable and unforced. I glanced at her, realizing how close we had become, not just emotionally, but in the way our energies aligned. I don't know how to thank you," I admitted. "You don't need to," she said, turning to face me. "I didn't do this for gratitude. I did it because it needed to be done, and because someone needed to remind you that you're capable of more than heartbreak." Her words hit deeper than I expected. For the first time, I truly understood that my recovery wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming myself. Maya's actions had triggered a transformation I hadn't known I was capable of. Rachel leaned back, a faint smile playing on her lips. "The next step," she said, "is living. Not plotting, not strategizing. Just living. And enjoying the freedom of being unbound by anyone who doesn't respect you." I nodded, watching the river ripple beneath the soft glow of street lamps. For the first time in months, I felt whole. Not healed in a fragile sense, but strong, confident, present. And I realized that life with Rachel, careful, measured, and yet thrilling, was something I wanted, not as revenge against someone else, but because it had become mine. Maya had taught me pain. Rachel had shown me power. And for the first time, I felt truly ready for the future. It all came together one crisp evening in Cedar Falls. The sun had just set, casting long shadows over Main Street, and the town had that quiet, small-town magic. Streetlights flickering, the faint hum of distant traffic, and the smell of coffee and baked goods drifting from the shops. Rachel and I walked side by side. No grand gestures, just easy companionship, but it felt electric. We stopped at the corner where the local cafe met the bookstore. I looked around, seeing familiar faces, neighbors, friends, even casual acquaintances. All of them had watched the subtle transformation in me over the past weeks. I wasn't the same Ethan who had stared at Maya and Connor that day in the parking lot. I had taken the heartbreak, the betrayal, and turned it into something stronger. Rachel gave me a look, part pride, part something warmer, and whispered, "Ready?" I nodded. We entered the cafe together. Maya was there again, seated at a corner table with her friend Jenna. The moment she saw me, her expression froze. Then it shifted, shock, then confusion, then a flicker of something like recognition. She realized, all at once, that the boy she thought she could hurt was gone. In his place stood someone confident, composed, and undeniably in control. Rachel walked beside me, her presence amplifying my own. I smiled politely at friends, exchanged greetings, and casually mentioned some small stories of my life. The books I'd read, the projects I'd started, the people I'd reconnected with. Nothing boastful, just truth. Authentic, visible, undeniable truth. Maya's eyes never left me. She wanted a confrontation, a reaction, but there was none. I didn't need to justify, explain, or yell. My calm composure and the unspoken bond with Rachel spoke louder than any words could. She left the cafe without saying anything, her friend trailing behind her. Afterward, Rachel and I stepped outside into the cool night air. The street was quiet, and we walked together in silence. The weight of the past weeks, the heartbreak, the anger, the subtle revenge, had lifted. "You did it," Rachel said softly, her hand brushing briefly against mine. Not a touch of romance, just grounding, confirming. "You reclaimed your life." I laughed quietly, the sound freeing. "We did it," I corrected. "I couldn't have done it without you." Her smile was gentle, not proud, but satisfied. "You already had it in you. I just helped you see it." We walked along the river path, the reflection of lights rippling on the water, and I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in months. Betrayal had introduced me to pain, but it had also led me to Rachel, to strategy, and to the kind of growth that doesn't just heal, it transforms. That night, I finally felt like myself again. Not the naive, heartbroken Ethan who thought love and trust were guarantees, but someone stronger, wiser, and unafraid to step forward into life. Maya would always be a memory, a lesson in the consequences of betrayal. But Rachel was real, present, and a living reminder that the right people arrive when you least expect them. And sometimes, the right person shows you how to take back your own story. And as we watched the small town lights flicker along the river, I realized this wasn't the end of my story. It was a beginning, a life rebuilt, guided by trust, confidence, and an unexpected connection that had begun in the quietest, most ordinary of ways. I took a deep breath. For the first time in months, it felt like freedom. And with Rachel by my side, I knew I could handle whatever came next.